Why billionaires hate New York City.
Where were you on November 16th? What about your teddy bear? Be careful, if the answer is New York City, it could cost you millions. That's because the plush whereabouts of billionaires' plush bears and trouts are one of many things New York's 300 plus residency auditors use to prove who does and doesn't owe New York taxes, and from 2013 to 2017 alone, these auditors pulled in $1 billion in revenue for the state. So what tricks do people use to avoid New York's sky-high taxes, and how do auditors call their bluff? To find out, we're going to focus on Miss Priscilla Pennyworth, a woman I've made up who, is getting audited. See, New York residents pay New York taxes on every dollar they earn everywhere that year, while non-residents only get taxed on income earned unequivocally in New York. Ms. Pennyworth's $3 billion annual salary is just $500 million less per year than Michael Bloomberg's, and she would owe over $325 million in state income taxes.
Million? That's insane. What was that, 30%? It's like almost 32.6.
As a resident. But she says she lives at her mansion in Florida, where there are no personal income taxes. For uber wealthies like her, a residency audit is like a colonoscopy. Law firms that handle them call them, quote, difficult, intrusive, and document intensive, and publish documents like New York residency audits, keys to preventing a nightmare. Meanwhile, the state has published this handy 107-pager detailing their protocol, which my writer was all too happy to read.
I see why now. You gotta prove that you don't live in New York, so you don't get hit with a 30% tax. Florida's nothing. That's insane.
In full. To keep her $325 mil, Ms. Pennyworth needs to prove to auditors that New York is not her place of domicile and that she isn't a, quote, statutory resident. In normal speak, that New York isn't her home, vibrationally, and or that she doesn't spend enough time there to owe taxes. New York, for their part, is determined to systematically poke holes in her I live in Florida story, starting with the domicile thing. Per New York, you might live in multiple places, but you have one home or domicile, proven by actions, not voter registration, driver's license, etc. There are 5 primary factors they evaluate, and the first is your home. There are a few ways to judge this. They might determine Priscilla's New York penthouse is her domicile if it's the largest, most valuable, or most subjectively homey property.
Oh man, it's like they try to get you on everything. It's like, hey, you owe us. You owe us. They try to get everyone. I mean, they don't care about regular people. They don't really care about what? $6,000? What was that, 30%? Yeah, around $6,000 for minimum wage. They look at the big ones. They look at her, Priscilla. $300 million. That's what they're looking for. The big fish.
In her portfolio. On the other hand, if it's sparsely furnished, mostly being used by others.
Wow, that's crazy. Home factors, no furniture, rented out.
Or for sale, they might believe she really moved. And yeah.
Oh, wow. That's probably why a bunch of penthouses in New York, they're always empty. They're bought for investment purposes, somewhere to store their cash. But you look at them, they're empty. They'd rather have them empty than have like living there or have it furnished.
Yes, the auditors will visit your home. All your homes if they can.
No way. They could do that? I thought auditors just look at your finances. I didn't know they could just search your house. That's crazy. It's like, oh, you got a ring here. Looks like you live here. Oh, you have a husband? It's a little intrusive. They're not like, they don't have a search warrant and they could just do that.
So if you're really worried, set some booby traps. The second main factor is, quote, active business involvement. Priscilla spends a lot of time in Florida, but she still runs Priscilla's Pet Purses in New York, often in person. And she's also on the board of the Met and comes in for their galas as well as other socialite responsibilities. Meanwhile, in Florida, her only real business is remote work for Pet Purses and going to Disney. If you're an auditor, that smells like a New York domicile. But no single factor can prove or disprove domicile, so we continue to 3.
Wow.
Time. Priscilla may only spend 5 months a year in New York, but does she spend more time anywhere else? A couple months in Florida, summering in the Riviera, skiing in Davos, visiting her kids, her parents, safari. It can sure look like New York is her main place. This isn't an absolute rule. If you live in Jersey but commute in for work and frequently stay in an apartment in the city during the week, you've got a good case that Jersey is your domicile anyway.
Okay.
Factor 4 is known as the teddy bear test.
What? For time? What if you're in New York but you just live in like hotels? Does that count?
Phrased as items near and dear. See, Priscilla's family photo albums, childhood teddy bear, current dog, an entire
Aha! Wedding ring. If you have a wedding ring on the nightstand, they're like, huh, you definitely live here.
collection of Renaissance paintings with weird babies are still in her penthouse. The taxation department believes you'll keep most of your favorite things in your domicile. If she'd paid an insured carrier to bring all that stuff to Florida, it would indicate to auditors that she'd really moved. But she didn't. Everything she brought to Florida came in a U-Haul, a red flag to auditors that you don't really care about it at all. The last factor is family connections. Basically, where do your spouse and kids live? Once, a wealthy couple claimed they lived, respectively, in New Jersey and St. Croix, but auditors noticed that their kids went to school in New York City, and the mailing address the school had on file to reach the parents was their place in New York. Checkmate. They don't pry too deeply into your family beyond that, but if Priscilla were to have an ailing relative that she moved to Florida to be with, she could make that part of her case. Most likely, the auditors would find that Priscilla was, in fact, domiciled in New York and collect her taxes. But if they didn't, they could still prove she was a statutory resident if she kept a place to live in New York in that tax year and or spent more than half of the year there. Keeping a place means what they call a permanent place of abode, i.e. somewhere inhabitable, even if not inhabited, by you for at least 10 months of the year. So a heatless cabin in the woods that you could only use in the summer, an apartment under renovation, or a place you rent out to a stranger who wouldn't let you stay the night if you asked, not permanent places of abode. In 1991 and 1992, Martha Stewart tried to claim residency in Connecticut because her house in the Hamptons was uninhabitable due to renovations, but failed because there were pictures of the place looking inhabitable as heck in her magazine, she had an active cable subscription there, and her author bio in a book published that year.
Wow, the government full on goes FBI, like the CIA, everything, just to prove that you live somewhere, just so they can collect the taxes.
Here said, quote, Miss Stewart lives in Connecticut and New York. The other part of statutory residency comes down to what's called the 184-day rule. If you spend more than half of the days of the year in New York, you're a statutory resident, with a day being any calendar day where you spent a single minute in New York, with exceptions for inpatient medical care and pass-through travel. Auditors will assume you were in New York on any day you can't prove otherwise via flight records, credit card or phone use, toll charges, established patterns, or any other.
Wow, so that's crazy. They just assume you're in New York. They assume you're wrong before you prove yourself. Was it? Isn't it supposed to be innocent until proven guilty? In this case, it's guilty until proven innocent.
Hard-ish evidence. One man, Julian Robertson, got a residency audit for the year 2000, and if they found him to be a New Yorker, he'd owe almost $27 million. He'd left parties by midnight Cinderella style to make sure he was out of the city before the next day started, flew into the city but slept in the suburbs before coming back the next day at 6 a.m. to avoid counting the travel day, and had his assistant keep fastidious track of his days. For 4 of those days in particular, auditors argued he would have to go to ridiculous lengths to avoid the city, but he proved that he was, in fact, ridiculous and got to keep his $27 million. These days, you don't need an assistant to track your days. There are apps out there to record your daily whereabouts, warn you when you're nearing 184, and provide third-party proof of that to auditors. Yes, there's a whole industry around helping rich people avoid accidentally owing New York taxes. One of those law firms that handle these audits provides a list of tips like not filing for certain tax credits and exemptions, and not suspiciously claiming to change your domicile on January 1st, which no normal person would do. You can also take matters into your own hands, like you can schedule your private jet to land in New York just after midnight to cut a day. Life hack! At this point, it seems, state residency audits are the only thing we, the people, have that make billionaires sweat. So here's my idea. The state starts a day tracking app, charging $20 million a year to use it, billionaires still save money and pay to use it, and we send the cash to the MTA to extend all the trains. Just a thought. And here's another thought. You should check out this video's sponsor, Best Way to creator-led projects too weird the generation that were, including above deals, such as hot.
That's insane. You can't. What is it? Every other state, or is it just New York? Is just New York this greedy? I thought New York would be cheaper, because of all the people that pay the same amount, or like the people. What's it called? The density of people in a closed space is cheaper to maintain than the suburbs, where a patch of road costs like $500,000, probably more. But in New York, it's like the patch of road still costs the same, but there's more people living there on top of each other, which pay the taxes to cover the small part. Because that's a fixed cost. Like the road, it's there. And maybe more wear on the road, but that's a fixed cost. the revenue is from the multiple people living on above them. It's like on the suburbs, it's just one level house, but in the city, it's like what 5 stories high, 20 apartments, every stretch of land. That's insane. That's why billionaires don't like living there. I mean, not even billionaires, probably millionaires too, but billionaires especially. Just by them staying there, New York's like, hey, you owe us. Billionaires like, what you do? Why do I owe you? They're like, oh, because you live here, don't you? Like it's like our house. You have to pay rent. Something like that. That's an wow. I gotta be careful of New York. That's all for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.